little late. A little late.
You know, sometimes you got to wait for good things to happen. You just got to be patient.
All right, I guess. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday!
How was your glorious weekend?
My weekend was awesome. I had fun with friends, did some running. I did road running. How about that?
I'm liking the road and flat stuff, Grace. I'm not gonna get on you for that.
Yeah, I did a race that's always on the 4th of July, the Shoe House 5 miler, because we run to a house that's shaped like a shoe. Run to that, and then we run back. And I also got some more time with my new grill. I got one of those little ceramic egg grills.
Whoa, you're bougie.
I guess it was a gift. So, but it's charcoal. So charcoal ceramic egg grill, which means I could take it to like a parking lot on the Mid-State or something like that, middle of nowhere, and grill up some burgers or some dogs and just have a good old time. So I wanted to get a couple of times using it, getting used to it before I did that, and made some good burgers over the weekend. So I'm ready to go.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you should bring it up here this weekend. I hear there's something happening in my house. I don't know.
There is. You have a whole legit setup though. You always have tons of food. This is like this thing's like it's like this big around. Like you can't do a whole lot with it. It's not made for as many people as you have. It's like 3 people go for a group run and you can cover like those 3 people. That's about it.
Interesting. All right. Can we start the show, or you want to just we can make it just about your egg?
Hold on. How was your weekend?
It was good. It was nice. It was great. Here we go again. I'm gonna go back to my winter wood. Becky and I finally got our winter wood stacked.
You got it stacked?
Yeah, so it's finally in its resting place for the winter, which is a huge weight off my shoulders because now it can, get dry and get good.
That's so nice.
That's a lot of work. I mean, heating with wood is a ton of work. Mm-hmm. I love wood heat. People that use wood heat know what I'm talking about. But I love my weekends and I love my free time, and it's a lot of work. But anyway, All right. I have a couple of important things that aren't really a big deal. So let's start the show, and then we can talk to somebody too.
Okay.
All right. Ready?
Ready.
Grace, an Ironman requires you to run, bike, and swim. 2 out of the 3, I have no clue how to do. Let's talk to Chris Young and figure them out on episode 122.
I'm Eric Idiot Runner Kosek.
And I'm Grace Hot Pants Langheim. Eric is all business in the front of the pack, and I am all about the party in the back.
That's right, business up front and party in the back. Together, we are the Running Mullet.
And we are going to talk about every aspect of running, the podium to the DNF and everything in between.
If you are a runner, this show is for you. Now sit back, get out your foam roller, and enjoy the party.
What you typing?
I am getting ready to post some stuff about Chris, because we're going to have Chris Young on the show, and I want to see what questions people have for Chris, because we're going to have him on the show so we can talk about stuff.
Yeah. Okay. We can bring him on.
Okay.
Why don't you intro him, since you prepare for the show so much? You have so many questions.
So Chris Young is coming on the show. I'm just going to bring him on, and then I'm going to tell you how I met Chris, because it's a fun story. And he is a friend of mine. He's a friend of Eric's. He is going to be a friend of yours too.
Huge Idiot Runner supporter from the very beginning. But before Chris even says a word and you get to your so many questions, I have something that's about me, and that's most important because let's face it, it's me, right? You understand?
Yeah.
Okay. So big news.
Mm-hmm.
You ready?
I'm ready.
I withdrew from Eastern States.
Oh, that is big news. Okay. Okay.
That's it. I wasn't gonna be ready to do what I wanted to do, and I'm happy with it. But I just thought I'd let you know.
Hey, that's big news, and I think it's pretty great that you kind of just said it out loud to everybody. You know.
I mean, the 2.5 people that watch, but yeah. I mean, it's no secret. It was like a big weight lifted off my chest, honestly. I am not very good right now, so.
Yeah, I'm feeling the same way. I just need a little space before I try something hard again, you know? I'm looking forward to just a fun weekend, and I hope you are too.
Well, it's not going to be very fun for you or Chris because you guys are on teams and those teams are counting on you, and there's pressure, there's guilt, there is
What if Grace and I are on the same team? Then it's fun.
It's not how it turned out. It's not how it turned out. Grace,
you know,
Grace is with Gabe and Trevor Phi. So you have
so I got nothing to do.
You're going to mix him.
I'll just give high fives and they'll do all the work.
Yeah, that's a good point. That kind of backfired on me.
That's perfect. I don't feel bad for them at all. There is zero guilt in my heart for Trevor Phi and Gabe Batner. They're very nice gentlemen, and I wish them all the most. I just don't feel guilty.
No, you should happily take the win with your team.
Hey, I would do a couple loops. You know, I plan on doing some loops.
Nah, we know. Summer Idiot Race. This is number 14th biannual race.
Yeah.
Biannual fun run, whatever you want to call it, is this coming Saturday. We have a bunch of people coming. It's going to be super fun, including both of you amazing humans. So it's always a good time, and I'm looking forward to it. Going to be working all week to set everything up. It's a pain in the butt. I hate you guys because of it, but it's always fun when it's done.
Yeah.
It'll be a good time.
It's gonna be super fun.
Yeah. So anyway, let's get back to the guy underneath us there, Grace. He's on the bottom.
Yeah. Chris, I'm excited to have you. Is this your first time on the show?
It is my first time on the show.
I know.
That's surprising.
A lot of time in the chat, but no time on the show.
Yeah, I'll blame. That's Grace's fault. I've told her several times, like, I want to get Chris Young on.
You know what though? I may have been on once. I think at Heiner, the monitor was left unmonitored for a while, and I think Lauren and I jumped on for a bit or something like that.
There you go.
So there is a possibility I did make it on once.
That counts.
That does count. So I met Chris for the first time at Brunerdale Aid Station when I picked him up as my pacer for World's End 100K, and that's when we met.
Yep.
Yep, I remember that.
I reached out to the Idiot Runner group and I said, hey, I could use a pacer. And he volunteered, and we got to know each other over those miles. We had a lovely time, and I got very close to finishing that year. I came into Fern Rock 8 minutes late, but he got me the closest I've ever gotten.
Yep, that was the year. It was in the fall, and
2020.
I had come from my family, Thanksgiving, GPS'd my way in, and just appeared.
Yeah,
and that was a good time.
And you
met you at an Idiot Run. At least I knew who you were, maybe.
Yeah,
from an
I knew who you were, and you were like had big dreams at that point, but you hadn't done as many ultras quite yet. And here now you've accomplished a lot of those dreams now.
Would that have been 2021?
No, it was 2020.
It was 2020. Oh, so that was a crazy year for me already. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a big year.
Yeah, that was when they canceled it for the spring and then they moved it to the fall classic.
Right.
Yep.
Okay.
I will say, like, volunteers are the backbone of trail running, and there's a lot of volunteers out there, and we thank them all. But Chris Young is like the best volunteer slash helper slash like willing to do anything person
Mm-hmm.
you will ever find. And the beautiful thing is, I don't think he knows how to say no. So, like, if you're
I've told
panicking,
Becky once or twice,
if you're
maybe.
panicking and like your 100-mile race is tomorrow and you need a crew or a pacer
Yeah.
or just a person to talk to, you hit him up on the Facebook and be like, boom, he's there. Like, and he'll be there. So,
And his lovely wife and lovely daughters also do a lot of help now.
yes.
Yep.
Cool.
Roped my wife into the Green Monster. And
That's right.
Come out the last couple of years and helped me out there. That was a good time.
Yep.
And this past year, well, we've done the stadium run a couple of years, and then this year we decided we're going to do it as a fundraiser. So, and then of course, as Grace's shirt, it's part of the group that we created for that. So that was pretty cool.
It was super fun.
It was.
I did treadmill miles.
Yep. That was rough, I'm sure.
Yeah.
All right, let's get down to the good stuff. Can we?
Yeah.
All right.
So, was it last weekend?
Last Saturday.
Last Saturday, Chris decided, I'm sure he decided before this, but he attempted and completed his own homemade Ironman.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And what are the different, like, I'm going to ask stupid questions.
Nope.
Because I'm prepared for this show, but like
Yeah.
there's different levels of Ironman, right?
Right. So there's what's called a half Ironman, which is what happens at State College, and it's a 70.3, which is a 1.2 mile swim, a 57 mile bike ride, and then a 13.1 mile run. So a half marathon to finish up. So that's a half. The full doubles everything up. So it's a 2.4 mile swim, 112 mile bike, and then a 26.2 or a full marathon to finish up the race. So as all the Ironman events are, they're crazy competitive and very well sponsored, and it's just crazy how much stuff you show up and expect to see. Like the bank of massage, leg things, and I'm like, what am I supposed to do with that? But there are people that do it. But
yeah.
So what I did was the full. So that was the 2.4 mile swim, 112 mile bike, and the 26.2 mile run. So
which is big. Am I wrong in my thinking that
Yes.
maybe not majority of people, but a lot of people who do the half Ironman say they completed an Ironman without clarifying? Is that a common issue?
Yeah, it is true.
Yeah, and the reason it bothers me is because they're nowhere near. Obviously, it's twice the distance of everything. They're nowhere near comparable. And it's not to take anything away from anybody that does a half. It's still incredible. It's still an amazing feat. But it's a shame it's not clarified more in the wording.
Right.
But hey.
And see now, that was the original, the whole triathlon thing. Ironman was like, oh yeah, that's the thing. Now you have sprints, you have Olympic, you have other distances that are like intermediates, that are, just like your 100-meter dash. It's their sprint is ridiculous. fast in the water, fast on the bike, fast on the run. It's pretty amazing to see what they how they do. And I've done a couple of those, and you just find out like, okay, I'm more the long, slow go at it kind of person. So,
Okay, so take us back. What was the inspiration for you to create your own Ironman?
I always wanted to do one, and actually in 2023, I had sort of mentally prepared myself that I was going to go do Lake Placid or possibly the one down in Maryland. And State College, out of the blue, decided they were going to do their half Ironman in State College. And so when they threw that out, because I graduated high school from State College, I decided this is too good to be true. I just can't not do that. So I switched my whole plan to do the half in State College so that I could be a part of the inaugural Ironman in State College. So I did that, and it was a good time. It was probably my most well prepared for one that I've ever done. And when I actually came out of that one, I felt really good. Like there wasn't a whole lot of, crash with calories or anything else. It really went as well as it could have gone. And so when I got done with that one, I felt pretty good.
Nice.
I have not had that experience since, but that's
You still chase
part
it.
of that's
right.
Part of that's my own problem of you got to plan for something, and this one was hatched in my mind. I had done a wellness goal for work, and I said I was going to do it. So however it was going to happen, I was just going to make it up or do it. And so I decided I was going to do it. And in my mind, I wanted to do it the last weekend in June. I have no idea why. In my mind, I just thought when I planned my vacation, it was going to be the week before. So I had a full week after vacation, and then it was going to be the very next weekend. So that's how it landed. And so I knew normally on vacation, I get a really good workout. We go to the beach. I get almost zero elevation, but I can get on the bike every day. I can run every day. I can think about swimming. I mean, jumping waves is swimming, right?
Yeah, sure.
So I knew that.
I like how that's part of your training. Part of your training is thinking about swimming. I like it.
It was almost zero part of my training. I think I swam twice leading up to it, and I think I told somebody that that if I was going to do it, if I could swim the distance, if I could swim the distance, I was going to go ahead and do it. So,
and is that your weakest out of the three? Is the swim?
The least confident I am, absolutely.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because it's just, I feel like I can get comfortable. The way I did this one, which is I stayed in the swim area, and it was just for safety more than anything else. It's a no wake zone. It's I didn't have to worry about anything, and at that point, I think it's 5 feet. So if I got in trouble, I could stand up.
There you go.
So it made it easier to do, and not have to, trust that, Janine was going to be. She was my lifeguard, really. And she had to leave, but then when she came back, she was there again, and I looked up and I'm like, oh, there's Janine on the bench again. So I'm safe. I can die now, and she'll get me.
Yeah.
So, but that was important. I wanted to make sure that I could do the swim part.
Mhm.
And swimming with a wetsuit, it does make a big difference on your ability to swim and swim well,
Mm. Hmm.
um, because the wetsuit itself has got some flotation built into it. So your
Oh.
legs don't sink as much.
Hmm.
You can actually roll over on your back and float in a wetsuit.
Wow. I didn't
So
realize that. I did one sprint triathlon a long time ago,
yep.
and the swim was actually in an indoor pool,
Oh,
which was
yep.
nice.
Yeah. Yep. But yeah, with the wetsuit, it does. It's an added buoyancy that helps you. And
Very cool.
so, and I have a short. Well, you saw the picture, but I have the sleeveless, and it's a 3/4 length. So
Yeah.
I can just open up the front of it and let water down in, and it cools you off almost immediately. So if you
Mhm.
ever do get overheated, it's a good way to go. So,
Yeah.
um, but so yeah, the bad thing is what Thursday before I did it, I
Mhm.
went and did rim to rim to rim down in the Pennsylvania Grand Canyon. That was a dumb idea. Um, it
Yeah.
trashed my legs, everything else that goes along with doing dumb things,
Uh-huh.
and I knew my legs were gonna be suffering, but I thought, I'll get by.
Mhm.
And so that was a dumb idea. Couple things I didn't do. I didn't ride 287, the road around the lake, at all. And it's been years since I've ridden a road bike on it. When I actually rode on it, it was terrible.
Mm.
It was like a tar and cindered road that just
Ugh.
shakes and rattles and tries to knock your teeth out of your mouth the whole time. And I'm like, yeah, this is dumb. So I should have done that. And then around Ice Run, the cell service stinks. So I
Mhm.
think that's what affected the swim and the bike and sort of
Yeah.
the run at that point, just because the cell service is so spotty in there.
Mhm.
And I think that even though the watch is working off of satellite and GPS and all that, I think that did sort of play a factor in the whole thing. But
Mm.
I should have planned better on that. My decision to actually do it didn't really happen until 14 hours beforehand.
Oh boy.
I think it was 4 o'clock the night before that when I got home and I said, "Yep, I'm gonna do it." And so then we went to dinner, and my wife had plans with my youngest daughter to go watch a movie, and I'm like, "Nope, I got stuff I got to do." And so went to dinner, they went their way, I went home and I packed and I did everything that I thought I mentally prepared myself for, but
Mhm.
it was just waiting too late. And I didn't do my nutrition right leading up to it. Um, that state college one, I had a very regimented, about 8 days out, meal wise, that really, I think, made a difference in the whole, you know, actually the way things turned out, because
Mhm.
I was well hydrated. I came in, my carbs were right. My, what sugar and caffeine was all right when I got to the day of. So um, it definitely made a difference, I thought. But deciding 14 hours ahead really didn't help that out a whole lot, because, the toasted cheese and the,
Yeah.
ice cream 4 days in a row, it
Yeah.
really didn't help things all that much.
No.
So,
I mean, you learned a valuable lesson, which is you can still complete an Ironman with very
dumb
poor nutrition.
decisions.
You probably would have recovered a lot better had you made better decisions, but hey.
Yeah, yeah. Um, the last, well, I did forget a couple things. I took, um, I took my hydration I did the SIS
Mhm.
mixes, and I used that, but I forgot to take like a gallon jug of water. So that was
Mm.
something Janine had to bring me. Sunscreen, Janine had to bring me, bug spray, and then a cooling towel. I
Oh,
You
love my
should you
cooling
should have went
towels.
with what she didn't have to bring. It would have been a
yeah.
shorter list.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was a truck, and the truck was full, and it was like, oh my gosh, how did I forget anything in what I've brought? But
Yeah, it always
I
happens.
managed. Um, so the dumbest thing I did was in the middle of the run.
Mhm.
Obviously, my legs were trashed. So, and I typically come off the bike and I run really well off the bike. I don't know what it is. Like my legs are nice and warm at that point, what it is, but I actually run really well off the bike. And I knew that. And I told Janine, I said, probably going to run, like 3 miles right off the bat, not even think about it. And that's pretty much what happened. I got to the end of that, and then it was like, okay, I'm clicking off 10 and a halves, 11-minute miles. And I thought,
Mhm.
for a marathon, that's not bad. I could live
Mhm.
with that. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to get my heart rate back down, and I'm going to take a walk mile. So I walked a mile, and I got to the end of the mile, and I was like, 16-minute mile. And I was like,
Hmm.
wow, well, that's not bad. Like,
Uh-huh.
you know what? If I could walk 16-minute mile for a long time, I'm saving myself a lot of energy, and I'm only giving up 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Well, that's a great plan until you add up all those 5 minutes over a 26.2-mile distance,
It's a lot.
and it's an extra 2 hours. And my
Yes.
brain was crushed when I finally realized that at like mile 13. And I was like, how dumb are you? Like, you just gave up all that time already. And I'm like, ah. So that was a
Now,
little disheartening.
your run, did you do your run on the Pine Creek Rail Trail?
No, I like after I went out on the bike, I actually went the whole way
Mhm.
down into Tioga on 287, and I came back. And then
Mhm.
I stayed the bike all in the park, from the
Okay.
main entrance down to the boat launch. And I just went back and forth between there and that. And then when I did the run, I actually went up to Stephen House or the other boat launch, and I was
Mhm.
going back and forth between the two, which if you add a little, side venture, it's almost about 3 mile loop to do that.
That's not bad.
So I was like, okay. But as it got closer to dark, the traffic was more and more ridiculous,
Mm.
and less paying attention to somebody being on the side of the road. So
Oh boy.
I actually shortened it to almost a 1 mile loop between the
Boy.
camping entrance and the boat launch. And that
Wow.
was dumb. So,
It's an adventure. I mean,
yeah, I mean, you could definitely turn your brain off. You didn't have to
yeah.
think about it. It was, I knew every, speed bump was. I'm like, hey, I'm going to go to the side of this one here.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
you know, I didn't have to really watch for rattlesnakes or anything,
Yeah.
that was scary. The occasional deer,
Yeah.
running through. But it was, it was, it wasn't bad. It was just not anywhere close to what I hoped would happen. I was hoping
Ah.
to go the whole way down. Um, there's the railroad tracks, down the whole way down to Hills Creek Road and
Oh yeah,
back, which
that
is
would have been
it's
nice.
like a 6 mile, and that's what I had hoped. But I
Mhm.
also knew that if I went down there, I was going to run into the biting flies,
Mm.
because I almost have never been down there and not had those. So, so I knew that was something I couldn't avoid if I
Mhm.
did go down to that direction. Um, and bug wise, where I was, I didn't have to worry about much. So
Nice.
it wasn't too bad. So it was just, a lot of the same things. That boring. At one point, I said to Janine, I'm like, it's so, what's that word? It's, I'm like, it's so monopoly. I'm like, no, it's not monopoly. It's so
No, not
monotonous.
Monopoly.
But yeah.
Probably lasted about the same amount of time as a game of Monopoly,
Well, yeah. Or, Monopoly Go is her new go-to, game on the phone. So, just hit the red button, whatever you're doing. So,
what was your finish time?
I finished in 17 hours, 38 minutes.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I ended up, so when Janine's came in at, she was there for the swim. She came at 1 p.m., 8 p.m., and then she came at 10:30. When she got there at 10:30, I had mentally already said, I'm done with the bugs. I'm done with the park. I just need to get out of here. And every time I turned the headlight on, the bugs swarmed me, and I felt like it was just eating bugs for miles and miles and miles. And I was like, yeah, I got to get out of here. So I resorted that I was going to go home and finish it up on the treadmill. Like I had 10 miles left. I was like, I'm going to go home doing the treadmill.
Yep.
Well, that's a good idea until you look at your watch, and your watch is on short run mode, and it will not register a run on treadmill. Boy. I was like, I'm going to have to stop this, start up a treadmill. I'm like, nope, I can't do it. So I went to sort of the safest place I thought of with street lamps and sidewalks. And so I went to downtown Lawrenceville, and I ran 10 miles in downtown Lawrenceville on a 3-mile loop with all sidewalks and pretty much nobody awake at 11:30 to about 1:30 in the morning. So, and Lawrenceville's a dry town, so there's no bar that left out at midnight or 2 o'clock. Yeah. It was just like, anybody that was out is probably up to no good at that point. And I'm just like,
or on their way to work.
Yeah, there was a group that came home from the races or whatever it was, and I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But otherwise,
so did you have a finish line?
I did. I sort of finished at the square of Lawrenceville, and I came up on the square of Lawrenceville, and I was 26.2 at my truck, so I went past it just to get to the square. And so I got to the traffic light, and I hit that, and I'm like, yep, that's it. And turned around and walked back to the truck and snapped a picture or two and jumped in the truck and drove home, and got home just about 2 a.m. and grabbed a shower and went to bed. I'm done.
I love that. I think that's so cool to just create your own adventure, and you're not doing it for the crowds or the cheers or, I think that can be fun too. But I think it's probably more popular in road running, where people will seek out runs just because of the crowd support, because they feel like they need it. And I think it's a cool challenge to say, what does it look like when it's just me? It's just me by myself, and the finish line is just in your head, and whether or not you actually hit that finish line or not is just up to you and what you're going to tell yourself at the end of the day. And I just think it's great.
Yeah, it was fun. And you're all right. At the Ironman races, there is nothing but positive vibes, everywhere. And that was one of the cool things at State College, I knew those, the route, I knew the route before I knew the route. And there's certain spots like, oh man, that's where I worked when I was in high school, and that's where I worked in college, and over
Yeah.
there's where I get ice cream, and like I watched this at at Rec Hall and different places like that. That I was just like, it brought back memories, but the people were out in groves, and it didn't matter who you were. You went by, and they were cheering you in some way, form, or fashion, and um, you know, but nobody knew your name because you were just runner 125 or whatever it
Yeah,
was.
yeah.
But like, it was still cool that there was the atmosphere of something like that really did push you. And I'll be honest, the hardest thing about any of it, swim, not so much, bike, not so much, but not talking to anybody was hard. Like at in the campground, you would think, oh man, you saw a lot of people. And I'm like, yeah, I saw a lot of people on e-bikes. I saw a
Yeah.
lot of people walking
Doing
their
their own
dog,
thing.
right?
Yeah.
Walking their dog on the other side, so the dog's not going to eat you. Like there
Right.
was no conversation at all, and that was the one thing I think I missed more than anything else. And when I saw Janine at 10:30, that was the one thought that just kept coming through my mind. I'm like, I need to talk to somebody. I don't
Yeah.
care to what degree. I just need to talk to somebody. And so mentally, that was definitely one of those things where like, it was a long time of waiting to talk to somebody, really.
And you could have just cut it off and been like, yeah, I did it.
Yeah,
And you didn't.
I've had several people say to me like, hey, you're 10 miles. They're like, 10 miles in a truck is 5 miles an hour. It looks pretty good on a GPS. And I'm like, yeah, it does. But, at the end of the day, I'm like, at that point, 130 some miles into it. Like, what's 10 more miles?
Yeah.
So, I've never, my longest bike ride up to that point had been 56 miles, 57 miles. So I'd done 2 halves. So those were my longest bike rides. Leading up to this one, I did 2 30-milers on alternating days. Those were my longest bike ride. But the bike is usually where I just get comfortable. I mean, like to talk about bike sore, bike butt and, chafing where you don't want chafing and that from a bike. It's just part of the game. Like that's the one thing that I sort of grew up with. I know that. I don't know that I have ever figured out how to fix it. I just know that's part of the whole process.
Yeah.
But normally I lose on a road bike. I lose feeling in my fingers. It's just a weird thing, just constant pressure in certain places. But I was more conscious about that on this one, and I was changing my hand positioning a lot, and just like, okay, it's time to change. Let's move it up to here, moved it down to there, and that is one of the advantages of a drop bar bike is that you have about 5 or 6 different positions you can put your hands and switch up the circulation on them. So, but yeah, it was fun. I mean, at this point, I'm a little over a week, away from it. Actually, I felt really good, and that's been the one thing that I figured out in all of this triathlon stuff is that my recovery is not for any of the rest of the, swimming or the biking. My recovery is like I would come off a half marathon or a marathon. I just, it's the run that I'm recovering from. Nothing else in that whole thing really seems to have that much of a lasting effect on me.
Yeah.
And so that's the neat thing that I figured out. I was never a swimmer growing up. Yeah, and I was never a runner, but I loved the bike when I was a kid, and that was just one of those things where I'm like, okay, I can get on a bike and
Mm-hmm.
just go. Back whenever you're allowed to ride your bike, and show up 4 hours later, nobody seemed to know the difference. So that you're at a friend's, you were somewhere, we rode our bike
Yep.
to play or visit. Like, it wasn't like mom and dad were home in the summer to take, hey, can you take me over to so and so's house? No, you got to ride your bike over.
That's right.
And we did that.
Yep.
So, and none of us, there's some of us that live close, but most of us did not live close to each other. So it was going to be an effort no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
So just got used to that kind of thing.
So what award did you give yourself?
So, Tanya from Revive is going to do something, and I basically gave her full realm. Hey, you use your creativity, whatever you want to do. Here's what I call it. Here's an example of an Ironman medal, just to get logos or whatever you want to do with it. But I just said whatever you want to. She had offered in my post, and I'm like, okay. So we chatted. I've had a couple ideas of like my own, one of which is sort of stuck in my head right now, which is a double battle axe.
Mm-hmm.
And Etsy's got a couple of them that I've looked at.
There you go.
Figure out how I'm gonna, personalize it to a degree. One of them is actually got sort of stuck in my head, and it has 3 triangles. And I'm like, oh, that's perfect.
Cool.
It's the whole triangle thing. I'm sure there's significance to what it means in a Viking lore, but I don't care.
Yeah, that's what it means for you.
Triangle. So, like there's things like that. So, but those have always been like sort of a fascination kind of thing. And I thought, you know what? But I think whenever I saw Becky at Rabid Raccoon, she had that belt. Is it a belt?
Yeah.
She got
championship wrestling belt.
Yes. I'm like, wow. Do you go that far? And I'm like, I started to look, and I'm like, what would I do with that? I'm like, but I would throw a battle axe on the wall, and I'm like, you know what? Or use it. I don't care. It's a metal. It's a metal. But yeah, I looked at the double battle axes are awesome. I agree. But and Etsy is one of those places where you find usable and non-usable, and
I love Etsy.
Yeah.
Now, if you were to, do you have like a name for this event? Because it's not technically like it's an Ironman distance, but does this have like its own name, or what would you name it if you were to do it again?
So I called it the Ives Run Ironman. So whether that's what sticks, I don't care. If it's young, when I looked at doing Kawaneski, which is another lake, and if I do it again, I'm going to do it there. So there's, my mind's always swirling for that one, that I may do that one again, or do one up there. And same idea. They have a swim area. They have a phenomenal bike, roads to bike on. And so if I were to do it again, I would do it up there. It was sort of a last minute choice to switch and go to Ives Run, and it happens, but if I were to do it again, I would do it up there. And I don't know if I were to throw a name, because I'm going to have 2 different locations eventually. I might just do as a Tioga Ironman, because both locations are in Tioga County. I don't know. I mean, I get some sponsors, maybe we start to figure out where we're going to go and, but
I like it.
there's some local triathlon groups in the area. And a lot of stuff happens up in Finger Lakes, and they do a lot of stuff up there. And I haven't gotten involved in a lot of those. I did a couple of them, but there are some groups. Rise Up is down in Williamsport. You have a Southern Tier group, and I think it's Binghamton is another group of triathletes that are in the area that just.
I like this direction. I like the direction it's going. Now, Sean had added into the chat. Why would you choose that lake for the next run?
The run itself would be a little more challenging, but you catch the edge of the Mid-State Trail there. So that had been originally one of those things that I was going to do. I was going to swim at the lake. And then at I's Run, what I at one point decided I was going to do is I was going to do a gravel bike and then do a full trail, marathon. So it wasn't just going to be your typical, just road race kind of deal. I was going to take it to the trail more. And because I don't get the good training of trails and all that leading up to it, I knew that was going to be a miserable sort of adventure. So, and I have a road bike and sort of a mountain bike. So to do like a gravelish kind of route would have been, killer. So I just said, no, I'm just going to stick to the road. Kawaneski, the road is one of my favorite bike routes. There is traffic, but there's not, what do I say, like stupid drivers.
Not the drivers are very focused. They're very focused.
Yeah, it's long straightaways, so that you don't get the guy that comes up behind you and you hear the rumble strips and you just wait for the impact. That's just become a little bit of a back of your mind kind of thing. And I've not said that I've ever had it there, but I've had it a whole lot less on that lake than I've had anywhere else. So I just like the ride, that the run. I would catch a little bit of that Mid-State, and there's a moccasin trail that wraps to the end of the Mid-State Trail. So you could catch that, which is, I think, about an 8-mile section. And then you could run back that trail towards I's Run. So, yeah, I run a lot more over there on that section. And it's comfort, and it's in my backyard. I mean, part of the reason I ride there so much is that, I can ride from my house and I can be at the lake at 2.5 miles. So, so I do the lake loop and a little bit extra, and I think I finish it right about 19 miles. So, but.
Chris, before I forget, you're talking about awards for yourself and you're not sure. There's a website called woodenswords.com. It sounds kind of cheesy, but I've gotten woodenswords.com, and they custom engrave anything you want. But there's one thing that I haven't gotten from there. I've got stuff for the idiot races before, for the overall winners in the past. Very nice stuff. But there's a Thor Woodhammer, or Thor Warhammer, not Woodhammer, Warhammer. So check that out. It's not huge, but it's a Warhammer.
Right.
I highly suggest you look at that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. It's as good and it's bad. Like you look at it and you're like, well, but some of it you full on expect it to get to you, and it's like made in China, and I'm like, that's
Yeah,
not what
they have
I
very
asked
good,
for.
they communicate
So,
with you. It's a good customer service. It's a good website for stuff like that.
yeah,
They got swords and stuff. They might even have a double axe head. I'm not sure, but a lot of the stuff is made of wood, not metal, which is I think is kind of cool.
right.
But anyway,
I definitely do races just for the swag, so I'm
Right.
in if you do a wooden sword. I did Canyon Man so I could get this pint glass and a
Right.
burger.
Yeah. Yep. Well, I did the relay for that a couple of times just because they give you a shot glass, and it's like, okay, now I've got a full set of shot glasses that
I
don't
need a
really
shot
use.
glass. That's a tough call. Man, I love that race.
Yeah.
well, the coolest part about you doing that is it's a big endeavor to start and think you're going to finish it, but to stick with it and finish it without anybody there other than your obviously supportive wife, Janine, and that's the most impressive thing is sticking with it for 17 hours. Nobody came to really pace you or anything, did they?
No, I thought about it for the run multiple times. Like, oh, I need somebody. Just anybody. Like somebody with a little dog that needs me to walk them for a while. I don't care.
Yeah.
It's it's bad when you're looking for a friend. In the middle of the night, or like doing something like that. And it definitely would have made a difference. I think that's one of the things that in the other races, at least you tag on to somebody, and whether you're chasing them or you're just coming up on them, it's like there's somebody there. And this was just hard. Mentally, I went through pretty much every piece of scripture that I could ever remember, and like phrase and word, just over and over in my head. And you're like, okay, I do this. I get to a certain point, and I got to say this to myself. And like just you get to those routines of like, this is what I have to do. This is where I am, and this is what I'm going to get through this with.
I've heard people say with solo hiking and FKTs and other solo adventures, like when you do something like that, you find out if you really like yourself or not.
Oh yeah. I'll be honest, and it's nice to do races like this by yourself. I was a loner sort of growing up anyhow. I socially I'm good, but I hang out by myself a lot, and so being by myself isn't that big of a deal. One of the things I found out about myself though, when I do races like this, I get angry really quick, and I don't understand why. Like, and Grace, you've run with me, Eric, you've run with me, and I'm happy, and it's like whatever. Like when I'm with somebody, I can be happy in that place. When I'm by myself, I was angry at the guy that built the road I've run, the driver that just drove by me, all the e-bikes, and I just continued to build on that like a little bit of anger, and I'm like, this is dumb. Why am I in this place? Like feeling like this, when if I had somebody else with me, I would be so happy to be where I am. And it's like just a weird thing that I never quite understood. But it's something I have figured out when I ran Rim the River down to West Virginia, the 100-mile trail race down there. It was the same way. When I got towards the end of the race, I just felt that I was sort of just mad. And and sometimes it's just like, okay, that race director is so mean. Why would he put a hill right here? Like he could have completely stayed down here and did this, but he put a hill right here in the middle. But like you just, I know that about myself. I can get in that place, and it's weird that if all I have to have is one person with me.
And
And
now, Well, switch it to the other side. So, like, what's something that you learned about yourself that was like surprising in a positive way or inspiring? Like, what's something else that you learned through this process?
Um, I learned, I always do. I find something to laugh about, just something dumb, and like running rim to rim with Callie 2 nights before, and she was talking about her heart farts.
Yes, her heart
Sister
farts.
branded. Yes, and that idea and concept just rolled through my head, and it did nothing but make me smile every time I thought of it. I'm like, dang it. I'm like, is it heart farts? Farts are hearts. I'm like, I don't remember. And then like short of just texting her and asking, I'm like, I'm gonna debate this the entire time I'm out here and I'm doing
Yeah.
this. And it's just little stupid stuff to make yourself smile, distract your brain just a little bit. It's amazing how far you've traveled, you've gone without thinking about anything other than a stupid little comment that came up, heart farts, that came up 2 days before.
Isn't that great? Like, you don't have to move on to the next thing and the next thing and the next
No,
thing. You get a little time to just think about heart farts
heart farts.
for an hour.
Swimming for that long is crazy. One of the things I said about is gas in a wetsuit.
Yeah. Oh boy.
Weird. Just weird. It really is. Having seen the Osprey circle me, and I'm like, I'm their next meal. I don't understand. Yeah. And then having something like that happen, which the best way I can explain how that was is I felt like a seagull landed on my butt and was walking on my butt as I was rolling through the water. And it was just weird. Like, why would a seagull decide my butt, black butt in the water, is its landing perch, whatever? And then I realized, oh, that was me. That had nothing to do with her. That was my own doing to myself. But just weird stuff to make you laugh, and then you think about it the rest of the day. Yeah, wetsuit farts. So, but yeah, it's just sort of crazy. The little things you do, mentally, you have to play those little games, and it does work for sure. So it'll be nice to go to the Idiot Run this weekend and talk to people and go like, wow,
the whole time,
right?
And we'll talk about farts the whole time too.
Yeah. I was thinking back, I think my first Idiot Run would have been the winter one in 2020.
That was my first one too.
Yeah, because then that's when I hooked up with Rhoda and Chad Brown and Brooke Shell, and we hatched this plan to go run Conquer the Wall down West Virginia in March. And we went down there to do that, and Chad bailed on it somehow or another. So it ended up being Brooke, Rhoda, and I. And we went down there.
Snowed.
And yes. It was terrible. But I got 100 miles in. I think the Idiot one, I think I'd done 42 miles. And that was the longest I'd ever done. And then, a month and a half later, I went down to West Virginia and did 100 miles down there in the 47 hours or whatever it was. Absolutely destroyed my feet, blisters upon blisters. And, but it was like, oh my gosh, like that's something that's possible. And that really just started that whole year of, because then I started to try to knock off all those distances of running. So I think I finished that year with Black Forest. Yeah. And that was, I think I reached out to Eric, Tuesday before Black Forest. And it's that, like, because a couple openings had come up, and I like, hey, do you think I could do this? And you were like, oh yeah. And I'm pretty sure he just wanted to see me fail miserably. But like whatever. But I hooked up with Becky Peralta, and she and I, like, I don't know if we destroyed the course, but we like hung together and learned a lot about each other, and we finished and
That's what it's all
came
about.
down, and so that was like the final run for the year, I think, for me. But 2020 was pretty epic. Just doing big things and accomplishing things that I never would have thought of trying in my wildest dreams. The kid that hated running and thought he was going to die for the first 5Ks I ever ran. It's like, why?
Yeah.
Here it is. Bring an AED with you. You're going to be like doing CPR on this dumb guy. Like, but
How old were you when you started running?
I was in track in high school, but
Okay.
I threw javelin. Like, exclusively threw javelin, and got. So then I was. Let me see. I know what this is. I wrote it down. 45.
See,
when I was 45, I decided. So my dad had quadruple bypass when he was 49 years old. So when I hit 45, my brain sort of went, wow, that's not far away. And family history and everything else is what it is. And I just decided that I was going to try to avoid that the best I could. And so I ended up 2018. I had chronic shoulder issues, and I decided to get that fixed, which put me sidelined for about 3 months. And actually, I felt great after a month, but it was in January. And what are you supposed to do when your shoulder's in a sling? And so I went walking a lot, and like, dumb idea, but I did do a lot of walking that year. So that sort of started the whole thing. And once I got to the other side of therapy, and I just started to run a little bit, like try to do 1 or 2 5Ks a year. And then COVID hit, and then it was like, I've got a lot of time on my hands. So it just sort of went from there. And just, taking advantage of that extra time that was in my life, and I could have done a lot of things. I did what everybody else did. I remodeled everything and fixed everything that I could possibly fix. And then when I got done with that, I was like, well, okay, there's a lot more time to do. So I did start to do that, but it was mainly just to avoid some family history that I knew there was a possibility. And at this point, I see my dad's actually mostly in a wheelchair and getting around with a different level of health issues in his life, and I just know that what if I ever get to that point, I wanted to have done as much as I could possibly have done with my life leading up to that. So like when we went up the Pemi Loop and we did the Grand Canyon, those are things that like, I don't know that are ever on my bucket list, but they're things that I'm like, you can't take those away from me at this point. I want to experience as much as I can experience. Say I've done it. One of the things I did whenever I started is I had said that I wanted to collect three buckles from different races. One for my wife, one for my 2 daughters. So I And whether they decide they were take those whenever I pass, I'm not sure, but I knew that that's what I wanted. I've accomplished all three of those. I have my Black Forest, I have my rim to rim or conquer the wall, and I have the rim to river buckle. So I have my
Nice.
3 buckles. So I don't feel like I need that Eastern States one. I don't feel like I need that World's End one. I got 3. Like, what are you gonna,
Well,
who do I give the 4th one away to? My dog, my cat? I don't know. I'm not gonna do that.
4th one can be for you. I mean, it's just very cool. It's very inspiring, and I think it's a great message to wrap it up. Is that you can be 45, start walking, and then eventually finish your own Ironman. So that's the story. That's the tagline.
7-year journey. I guess I'm there. I've claimed to have retired 3 or 4 times. Then here I still am. Still doing it. Still thinking about trying another one.
Awesome.
But yeah.
And we already know what you're doing this weekend. Eric, I already know what you're doing this weekend. I will ask you more questions about this adventure this weekend, Chris.
Yeah, and remember all those people that you said you went to conquer the wall with that talked you into it. They're all going to be here this weekend. So looks like another adventure that's going to be planned.
Yes, they introduced me to the beer loop that year, and I had no idea what that was until I'm like, wow, this does make it better. But
you got to have a beer loop.
I don't know that I've done one since, but I did that year. Yeah, for sure. So
awesome.
Well, thanks for telling us your story of your homemade Ironman. It's pretty awesome. You should be proud of yourself and keep doing awesome stuff. Glad you're in our corner.
Yep. I'll look forward to seeing as many people as I can see, and it's been fun. I enjoy the running community. They are awesome. And I thank everyone that's said thank you or congratulations and all that kind of stuff. That's
Yep.
It's nice, but I just enjoy being, like I said, running. Like, it's so much better when you have somebody to talk to. So much better.
Well, you have plenty of people to talk to this weekend, doing a couple loops of the idiot loop, a couple rounds of the idiot loop. So it should be a good time.
Yep.
Very good.
I will see both of you this weekend. Grace, I'll see you sadly on Friday night.
I'm calling the couch right now.
Yeah.
In the shed or in the house?
In the house.
All right, Grace, let's wrap this sucker up. Take us out. Say all the things.
All the things, and follow us on all the things, and like all the things, and share all the things with all of your friends, so that your friends will be happy because they get to hear cool stories like Chris's story. And hopefully some of you, I will see you this weekend. I can't wait to see you. It's going to be awesome. And keep listening and watch us again on Monday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Every Monday, we'll be back.
Post Idiot Run.
Thanks, everybody. See you next week. Bye.